People who randomly packed up and left everything behind, what made you do it? So I did this about 5 years ago, and people still think I'm crazy for it. I literally just left. Didn't tell anyone except my mom, and only because she would have called the police if I disappeared. Packed 2 suitcases, bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, and just went. I grew up in this tiny town in Oklahoma where everyone knew everything about everyone. I always knew I wouldn't stay forever, but I had this whole responsible plan to save money, find a job somewhere else first, all that practical stuff. But TBH, my life there was just existing. I had the same friends since elementary school, dated guys from the same small dating pool everyone fished from, and worked at this local insurance office where my boss Tinley micromanaged everything. She would literally count how many times I went to the bathroom. Not exaggerating. I kept telling myself, next year I'll leave. But then, something would always come up. My friend needed a roommate. My car needed repairs. My grandma wasn't doing well. Always some reason to stay, just a little longer. And then suddenly 5 years had passed since college, and I was still there. The thing that finally broke me wasn't even that dramatic. I was at the grocery store and ran into my high school boyfriend Scott and his wife. They had their second kid with them. And Scott was like, "Still here, huh? Thought you were gonna be some big city girl," and laughed. His wife didn't know me, but laughed too, because that's what you do when your husband makes fun of someone, I guess. And IDK, something just snapped in me. Like, I smiled and said something nice and finished shopping. But the whole time I kept thinking, is this it? Is this my whole life? Just being the girl who never left, who everyone has a story about. I went home and looked at my apartment. This place I decorated so carefully, but that still had the same cheap beige carpet and popcorn ceiling as when I moved in after college. And I just opened my laptop and bought a plane ticket for the following week. I didn't tell anyone at work. I just sent an email the night before saying I wouldn't be coming back. I called my landlord and said I was breaking my lease. I sold my furniture on Facebook Marketplace for whatever people would pay. My car went to my cousin Fernando. I practically gave it away TBH. Everything else I either packed in those 2 suitcases or donated. My mom cried when I told her. She kept saying I was having a breakdown and needed to think about it more. But I wasn't. I was actually thinking clearly for the first time in years. I wasn't running away from something specific. I was running toward anything else. The first few months were hard. Like really hard. I stayed in a hostel at first, then found a room in this house with 4 roommates. I worked at a coffee shop even though I had a business degree. I was broke and sometimes scared and definitely lonely. But I was also alive. For the first time in forever, I didn't know exactly what tomorrow would bring. Nobody knew me or had expectations. I could be anyone. I could try anything. I could fail at things without the entire town talking about it. I met Lila at the coffee shop. She was a customer who became a friend. She helped me find a better job. I started dating people who had completely different life experiences than me. I tried foods I'd never heard of before. I went hiking in places that made Oklahoma look like a parking lot. 5 years later, I have a life I actually want. A job I don't hate. Friends who know the real me, not just the version of me that was shaped by a small town. An apartment with a view of water. And the thing is, the real reason I left, the thing I didn't even admit to myself until months after I'd gone, wasn't about Scott or Tinley or even the town itself. It was that I realized I'd spent my whole life being defined by other people. By what they thought of me, by their expectations, by their stories about who I was. I didn't know who I actually was when nobody was watching, and I needed to find out before I woke up at 80 years old, still wondering.